There are times in all of our careers where it's important to talk about our accomplishments, our skills, our goals and aspirations. Maybe it's an interview, maybe it's a networking conversation, maybe it's a performance appraisal. And yet a lot of us shy away from this opportunity to talk about ourselves and put the spotlight on us because it feels like bragging. And even the term marketing ourselves feels salesy and slimy. But being able to talk about yourself and market yourself is an essential career skill. And so we're going to talk today about why it's so important for your career. I'm going to share a fundamental shift that will hopefully change the way you think about marketing yourself and take away some of that icky, slimy energy. I'm going to share 3 examples of how to actually do this. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to share 2 small but mighty words that are really going to up your game in this space. Hey, it's Caroline from Caroline Adams Coaching. I am so happy you're here. If you're new here, go ahead and hit subscribe. There is a blog post that is a companion piece to this video. I will link that below. Go ahead and check it out because it's going to give you a lot of examples and actual phrases that you can start to use and play around with as you start to talk up your successes. So let's talk about why it's so important to actually market yourself. You may be saying, Caroline, I do great work. Why can't I just let my work speak for itself, keep my head down? I don't want to play politics. I so hear you on this, and yet it's not the way it plays out most of the time. So let me illustrate this with a true story. So there were 2 directors, a man and a woman. They both wanted to be promoted to managing director. Now, at the end of the promotion cycle, the man made it to managing director, the woman did not. Why, you may ask? Well, according to their manager, he said, well, the man talked to me all the time about his goal of making MD. We just had a lot of conversations about it. The woman never brought it up, and so I didn't know it was something that she wanted. Now, we can have a whole conversation about this manager and why he wasn't more proactive in understanding everyone on his team's career aspirations and, working proactively to help them get there. Unfortunately, until we tackle that bigger problem of leaders being better leaders, unfortunately, a lot of this work falls upon us to advocate for ourselves. And as this story illustrates, until we talk to people and tell them what we want, they're not going to be able to help us get there. So I said I'd share with you a fundamental shift in how you think about this term marketing yourself, because I get it. It feels even weird to me as I'm sitting here saying this to you, right? When we think about bragging is about us and our ego and shining the spotlight on us just for our own purposes. Whereas marketing yourself is connecting what you like and are interested in to what is important to the person that you are talking to or the broader organization. We are talking about value and contextualizing what we do every day and putting it in terms that make sense to the other person. It is not bragging in an interview to talk about your past accomplishments and connecting to the dots to why this makes you a good fit for this new organization. It is not bragging to talk in a networking conversation in a memorable way about the unique perspective you bring and the goals you have. This is how you plant seeds with people and actually draw opportunities towards you. So let's move into 3 very crunchy examples of how you can actually start to do this. So the first example I call writing yourself back into the story. So I worked with a woman many years ago, and her team was not getting the recognition that they deserved from senior management. So she spent her time with senior management talking her team up, right? This is admirable. Who wouldn't want to work for this manager? The challenge was that she also wasn't getting the recognition she deserved. And so in not talking about herself, she effectively wrote herself out of the story. And so, I love a good formula. Here is a great formula to spread the value and connect the dots all of the way around. Management did X, which allowed my team to do Y, which enabled me to do Z. Right? And you'll fill in the blanks with the example and the detail that work for you, but you could say something like, management gave us the runway to run with this big, bold vision, which enabled my team to really think about big, bold solutions that were easily implementable, which then allowed me to really focus on the client experience and bring them on board and know that this was the right decision. And do you feel how different that energy is than bragging, right? Where you're just spotlighting highlighting yourself and no one else, to where you're talking about the value delivered and how all parties contributed. It is a true win-win-win. So this next example I call fill in the gaps with curiosity and passion. And so a lot of times I see people get derailed in terms of talking up their accomplishments and what makes them special is when they feel like they're lacking in some respects. And so they kind of focus on the gap. And so a great example is in interviews. I worked with a woman years ago. She was perfectly qualified. She was more than qualified for this position. They invited her to an interview, and she was focused on the one part of the job description that she did not have. In this case, it was a new technology. And so rather than focus on the 9 things that she already had, she only could focus on this technology. And so it totally took her away from her confidence. So what we came up with was a way for her to talk about, day one, here are the 9 things that I can bring to the table. And by the way, I don't know this technology, but by the way, I'm really great at coming up to speed quickly. And in my next career move, I'm really looking for an opportunity that is going to stretch me and help me grow. And I think learning this technology is going to be the right kind of stretch for me. And so I just thought this was a beautiful solution for her to be able to stand in her power of all the things she could bring to the table, stand in her integrity, not pretend like she knew this technology or not feel weird if she wasn't sharing it, but address it head on and present it as a growth opportunity. So I encourage you to think about doing something like that yourself. Again, check out the blog post. I give a lot of other constructions and phrases that you can play around with if this is the case for you. All right, so the last example I'm going to give you is what I call let others lend you their voices. So I would love for you to get to a point where you are confidently and clearly talking yourself up and marketing yourself and talking about the value you deliver, not just in interviews and performance conversations, but in everyday conversations. There have been studies where men are actually really good at just in the course of a regular conversation, adding in, contributions they made or why they're so great. And if you are not at that stage yet, if you're not that person, a great technique to lean on is letting other people lend you their voices. So scour your 360 reviews, your letters of recommendation, maybe even those everyday email compliments that people make, and use those as examples. So I had a client several years ago, and this has stuck with me ever since. She said about herself, my manager says that I see around corners. And I thought that was such a great way to illustrate that this is a person who is, looking so far ahead, she's anticipating what other people can't even see yet, right? And so again, check out that blog post for a lot of other examples. But if you are not comfortable kind of talking in the first person, talk in the third person and let others showcase you. Another example is saying, people always compliment me on my fill in the blank. Or, one time someone told me that I did X really well, and that always really stuck with me because. There's a ton of different constructions you can use, but hopefully this will get you started thinking on the right track. So I said at the beginning, I would share 2 small but mighty words that will up your game in this space. The 2 words are so that. So let me illustrate this with an example. I see this a lot on resumes. The resume will be filled with stuff that the person did, like where they were spending their time. They made 10 widgets. They managed a team of 10 people. And often what's missing, again, is the context and the value delivered. And so those 2 words, so that, can connect what you did to the benefit to the organization or individual that you were working with. So I made 10 widgets so that the company's productivity rose by 3x or whatever it is. So play around with those 2 little words, even in your daily speaking to people. Talk about what you do and then insert those 2 words so that you can prompt yourself to make the connection to the actual impact made in a way that lands with the person that you're talking to. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful. Leave whatever questions you have below. And if you liked this, go ahead and throw me a like, and I'll see you soon.